Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of our photography review show. Once again, I hope you had a good week, or several weeks in this case actually, and I hope you're ready for more photography fun. Today is 6th of December, so we are in December already, and that means that we actually only have two more shows to go after this before the end of the year. Now, talking about the photography review show, we actually gonna take a little break in January and we're gonna revisit the idea and plan something really exciting coming back in February. So keep an eye on the membership as well as our Facebook page and website, and I think that there is a lot to look forward to. But anyway, today still in the classic format. If you've never been here before, my name is Jakub. I'm a professional photographer based in West Sussex, England, and I'm a founder of Clever Photographer. Now, this show specifically is my way of staying in touch with our incredible photography community and my way of helping you to keep moving forward on your photography journey. What we're gonna do? Well, very simply, we're gonna review your images, and the way I like to do it, I like to look at the three aspects of the photo. The technical part, this is where we look at things like exposure and sharpness and noise and camera settings and all that important stuff which works as a building stone for the photo. After that, we look at the artistic part, when that's where we look at things like composition and framing, storytelling, the main subjects, and all that stuff that really makes the image work. And if I think that it's beneficial for you, what we do, we also look at the photo editing, and I try to give you some tips and tricks on how to improve your image even further. So that's what we're gonna do. Now, if you wanna join us with your own photos, you can still do that by joining our membership, Clever Photographer Plus, and you can find out more about it on our website, cleverphotographer/membership. Anyway, this is all out of the way, so let's go straight ahead and start with the reviews. Okay, so moving into Luminar Neo, we are in the catalog module, and this is where we're gonna do most of the reviewing. Now, if you don't have Luminar Neo, don't worry about it at all, because most of the editing or suggestions can be done in any other similar photo editing application. So, we have some landscape photographers, mixed photography, wildlife photography. So let's go ahead and start with the landscape photographers. And first on the list is Caroline. And looking at the three images, Caroline, I almost feel like I shouldn't even give you any feedback other than really congratulations on a beautiful series of images. I'm a massive fan of building a story using 3, 5, 7, 9 photos, because I think it really works very well together. And we don't always print images for the walls and share them in a magazine. Sometimes we just want to show them to our family, friends, or on our social media. And I think that a series of photos can work really well, little detail, bigger picture, wide angle, or just a similar theme. I think all of that can work really well together, and this is perfect example of it. Let me just make a bigger thumbnail so we can see it. And looking at it, first thing I really have to commend you on is the style. I think style is something really important in photography, creative style or photography style, because it's really a sign that you're starting to be comfortable with what you're doing and that you really get the feel of what you're creating. Also, it's a good thing for photographer to have a style, as his work can be easily recognized over the time. And it's definitely something that I think is really important, and you can really see it here. Looking at the three images next to each other, it works super well and it's really well done without me even going into and start reviewing it. So well done, Caroline. It's great. Still, obviously, we're not going to just do that. Let's have a look at least 2 images and see how you capture them. So, for example, this one right here, it's a beautiful kind of magical capture with a lovely feel of the warmth of the autumn, also with the reflection of the water. All of that works really well. So looking at it, talking about the camera and the camera settings, Canon R5 with the 24 to 70 millimeters. From the camera settings, the lens on 70 millimeters, ISO on 200, f11 and 1 second on the shutter speed. So 70 millimeters isn't necessarily that wide, but it gives us a really nice view with a lovely shape. So I think that works really well. And also it keeps the distortion on minimum, let's say on minimum. ISO on 200, perfect. F11, it's always a good choice, especially when there is lots happening in a scene, when you have items or elements close to the camera and also further away. I think the F11 is a good choice to keep sharpness all the way through. Of course, with low ISO and higher f-stop, when you combine them together in a low light situation, often you end up with the longer shutter speed. This is where the 1 second steps in, but the 1 second then also give you a really nice reflection and smoothness in the water, which I think in this image specifically works super well. So all of that combined together is great, and the camera settings works perfect. Now, looking at it, let's just zoom in at least to 100% and have a look at the sharpness, which is really good. You can see on the tree and pretty much all the way through. Now, one thing that I'm a big fan of in a long exposure photography is the contrast. I think for long exposure photography to work, you need to have a good contrast of the smooth surface, like the water, and then the very details and sharp other elements, like the ground and the roots. And in this case, it works super well. With the 1 second, I'm also amazed for the sharpness of the leaves. Yes, of course, some of them move, that's normal, but in overall, it doesn't look distracting, and I think it works very well with the overall image. So, what I'm trying to say, Caroline, is that it's super well captured. Technically, very well done, no noise, good sharpness, good light, lovely diffuse light, there's no special extra highlights, there are no heavy shadows, it just all works together. Talking about composition, I told you multiple things which I think works already there. I think this shape really helped to open the image. I think the reflection is always a really powerful medium for composition and storytelling. The kind of colors, the way it works together creates really nice, very warm, very nostalgic, very autumny feel, and yeah, it just works very well. I like the tree placed on one side. It also creates kind of dominant structure and something the viewer can kind of rest on. I think if the tree wouldn't be there, it would be really busy because there is a lot happening there, but the tree just kind of let you stand and say, okay, this is where it all starts, and then you work your way around. The flow of the water helps as well. So all in all, perfect image. Great. I'm very happy with what you've done with it. Photo editing, great. It is a little bit more on a warm side, but I think it works super well with the autumn photography. So well done. Let's have a look at one more. So we can look at this one, which is probably in some way similar to the first one with the tree. It's beautiful, beautiful composition. Well done with that. So actually, let's finish it off here with a beautiful reflection. So this also captured with the Canon R5, but this time with the 70 to 200 millimeters. Now for the camera settings, 95 millimeters, so fairly zoomed in with the ISO 160, f11 and 13 seconds here. So ISO, all good. F11, again, perfect here. I don't necessarily think that you would need to go as high, but you know, who knows, maybe there are elements moving and so on, so okay. And with 13 seconds, again, it gives you this beautiful water. There is a little bit of movement, but actually sometimes the movement in the water on a scene like this just makes it look a little bit more natural. It doesn't always have to be like a perfect mirror, and I think in this way, or in this case, it works super well. So well done on capturing that. Details, very, very good. With 13 seconds, obviously there is a little bit of movement, but it's not a big deal. Noise, pretty much to minimal. Again, great exposure, and I think it all just works together. When it comes to composition, there's just a main element here is the reflection and also a balance and, how would you say? Yes, balance. I am a huge fan of placing the center of the reflection in the center. I think it works really well because you get the symmetry, you get the balance, you get the reflection, and you know, combining multiple composition elements together is when it really starts to work. And this is a perfect example of it. So, Caroline, another amazing image. Now, just one thing, compared to the other ones, you can see how this one is a little bit more washed out. So it's a little bit more kind of soft. So what you could do just to balance them across the three, I would probably add a little bit of contrast. So let's say that we use the super contrast here. This is where we can adjust contrast for midtones and also for highlights. So let's do that just a little bit, probably somewhere around here. After that, let's just have a look at the other images just to balance it. So I think that looks good. Back to this, maybe just a little bit of exposure down, just maybe touch, -10. And let's have a look at it. Maybe just a touch of vibrance. Not necessarily a saturation that would just make it all too colorful, but vibrance. I like to use vibrance because what it does, it increases the saturation of more muted colors rather than the colors which are already saturated. So I think if we do around 14 is even too much. Maybe 10, and then go back. Yeah, maybe 10 is even too much. Or what we need to do is to go to color, HSL panel, and just bring down a little bit saturation of the green. Keep an eye on that. Maybe green and maybe yellow, just a touch. So something like this. And that's about it. Perfect. Only thing, actually, just thinking about it, Caroline, one more thing I would do, I would darken the top and bottom a little bit just to give the viewer an option to kind of get stuck inside of the image. Now, it's beautiful, but lots happening across. So even simple vignette, if we apply it, will really help to stand the rest. Let's have a look at it. Before and after. I know it's very subtle, but I think it will make a big difference. Anyway, either way, whatever you like to do, Caroline, they are beautiful images. You should be very proud of them. And yeah, congratulations. It's a lovely, lovely captures. Now, moving to another landscape photographer. Now we're going to look at images from Weasley. Now, Weasley usually send us raw file as well as the edited image. So let's go ahead and start with the first one right here, where actually we can right away jump into the edited photo and look at the camera details, so the camera settings. So this image, or this image originally, was captured with the Nikon Z8 with the 24 to 70 millimeters. From the camera, 34 millimeters on the lens, ISO 64, f9 and 1/500 of a second, with actually -3 on the exposure compensation. Interesting. So from the camera settings, nice and low ISO, f9, yeah, specifically for this type of scene, all good there, 1/500 of a second, giving you nice level of exposure, nice details in the sky, good sharpness. So I mean, when we zoom in, we can see the sharpness is there, minimum noise or none really. And yeah, lovely details across. So well done. On the camera settings, nothing wrong with there. The overall exposure or the light seems quite nice. It's nice and diffused, and it should give us a nice base for the photo editing. So that saying that brings us to the edited version, which is right here, which is very well done. Nothing really to add here. It's a beautiful landscape with lots happening here. Obviously the rocks in the middle giving a lovely opening, and almost like your foreground element with the mountains in the snow at the back, also creating beautiful scene. I really like the composition with the upper third and 2/3 of the ground. I think that works really well when you place the sky over the upper third. That can work really well. A little bit of, I guess, vignette over here, just kind of darker in the side, giving us more attention towards this side of the photo is also a lovely idea. The overall depth is very nice, again, with the kind of foreground, middle ground, and background. So all in all, well put together, very kind of natural result with lovely contrast, lovely feel to it. And yeah, just very well done. Nothing much I would add here. So very, very good. Now that brings us to the second image, which starts here. So this is the original photo, also captured with Nikon Z8, this time, not this time, also with 24 to 70 millimeters. From the camera settings here, 24 millimeters on the lens, ISO 64, f8 and 1/500 of a second. So yeah, again, low ISO, nice wide lens, good f-stop, 1/500 of a second, again giving you good light, good exposure for the sky as well as for the main element. So yeah, all in all, well put together. Let's just zoom in to double check on the sharpness, which is really good. That all works very well. Lovely level of details in the sky. No noise, so it all looks good. Well, after this, there's a person there. That's really cool, because that really gives us an idea how big is this. It's massive. Wow. Looking at it first, it's very interesting. This is again talking about scale in photography. Looking at it, I would have thought this is maybe like 2 meters tall. You just don't know, right? I never been there, never seen it. I have no clue. And then you look at it and it's probably, I don't know, 20, 30 meters tall. So yeah, definitely interesting. Anyway, let's have a look at the edited photos. So we have a colored version and we had a black and white version. I love them both, actually. The color version, especially the panorama crop, I think that really helped massively. It really takes the main subject in, adds a lot of interest to it, lots of importance, and just really make it stand out. How you darken the sky, make it very dramatic, looks really and works very well. Everything there just is great. The contrast of the colors with the sky, the light is very interesting, although it's a little bit harsh. It gives you some strong shadows, but I think for the dramatic image, I think it works really well. So Weasley, this is a great capture, great editing, and I really love it. And I'm happy that you kept the person there because I think it really helps. The black and white version works really well as well. Obviously, it's a different style. I think it's not necessarily... Some people use black and white as a substitute if the colors are not great or the light is not great. But I think obviously this is already very powerful, but in black and white, it looks great too. It's well done, gives nice contrast. Just keep an eye on your sky in black and white photography. Maybe sometimes make it a little bit softer, just helps to remove lots of texture, lots of clarity, which can be a little bit overwhelming for the viewer. Where on the color version it works because there are other elements that distract the viewer. On the black and white, you just see lots of details and texture. And again, lots of details and texture in the sky. So maybe that's just my only note I would suggest to you. Either way, Weasley, I love the results. Beautiful images. Well done on capturing them and well done on editing them. Anyway, thank you for sending your images over. Now, moving on to the photographers who send us a mixed style of photography. And the first one on the list is Dick. With the 4 images, now we will not have a time to go through all of them, but still, let's just have a look at each one of them to see what he sent us. So first, this really cool capture of F-16 and Spitfire. No, I don't know who they are. It's just I'm reading it from the text here, but they look super cool. Dick, it's a beautiful capture, well put together, really, really nice. I wonder if it's the same image, that they are flying next to each other, or if it's a combination of 2 images together. Either way, it's really cool. Really, really like that. Then a little bit of ice hockey. For me personally, coming from Czech Republic, you can imagine I'm a massive ice hockey fan. I can't really enjoy it much here in UK, but yeah, when I was growing small or as a child, ice hockey was a big thing. Every little village or city or town has a lake behind, and that's where we play every winter as soon as it's frozen. So yeah, beautiful capture, lovely action, lots happening there, well put together, and yeah, very well done. Now, moving on to the second one, a little bit of detail in kind of portrait capture right here with quite interesting light. Yeah, lots of things happening here. So well done there. And third, little black and white portrait here. Again, well put together, well captured. So, Dick, what are we going to look at? Well, let's have a look at the planes. We're going to start with that. And looking at the planes, again, looking at the camera details, I'm not 100% sure if it was in the same image because it says 1/200 of a second, which I'm not sure if that's enough for the F-16, but maybe it is. I'm not sure. I'm not the one to judge. I'm not massive into air photography like this, but still, let's have a look at it. Nikon D5300 with 18 to 400 millimeters. On the camera settings, ISO 100, 220 millimeters, f6 and 1/200 of a second. What I'm more interested in is the sharpness, which is okay, but you can see that it's a little bit soft, even though we can see the cockpit and everything, which is really cool, but you can see how it's not super sharp, and so is the second one. But still, it's really nice. I love the movement on the propeller and, the foam or the fog, not foam, fog, or, it's just coming from the smoke coming from behind the plane. I think that's really cool. It's lovely put together. It's a lovely thing. The depth is really cool. Just putting them next to each other is very kind of iconic, and I think it's really nice. I love the edit, the overall natural feel of it. Obviously, when it comes to composition, it's very straightforward. It really, you know immediately what you're looking at, and I think it's very well done. So cool on that. Now let's have a look at the portrait. We're gonna look at this I would say young lady. Also captured with Nikon D5300, 18 to 400 millimeters. And this time we're talking about ISO 1000, 185 millimeters, f5.6 and 1/60th of a second. Nice and long lens, higher ISO. So I'm assuming maybe I would say lower light situation here. f5.6 is probably as far as the lens went with 185 millimeters, and 1/60th of a second should be good. Let's have a look at it. What is the sharpness? It looks like the sharpness is around the eye, so that's all good there. Obviously, with the long lens and f5.6, you have a little softness around the nose, which is no problem. And then you get a little bit of softness gradually around the hair. But in overall, I think it works quite well. Let's have a look at it. Sharpness good, noise for 1/1000th of a second. For 1000 on ISO, it's not bad at all. Obviously, there is some in the darker areas, but in overall, I think it works really well. Light is interesting coming from here. You know, there's lots of contrast there. You're playing a lot with the black and white and the contrast and, you know, darker areas. I think that works really well. A little bit of blushing, which maybe could be adjusted. Maybe whatever style you were looking for. I think maybe just a little bit of adjustment to the light, you know, maybe just kind of a little dodge and burn that could help. But in overall, it's nice. I really like the close-up of it. I would like to see it as a part of series, maybe the full body, half a body, face, and this one as being as a part of it. But I think it's very well done. So just kind of jumping into edit module here, looking at some of the portrait tools. We're gonna open the face and see if we can maybe help a little bit of extra light into the face would help. With the eyes, do we need to adjust them? Maybe just a little bit of eye enhancing just to make them stand out a little bit more. We can also remove a little bit of dark circles. Nothing crazy, we don't want to overdo it, but just a touch. Eyebrows, all of that looks good to me. We don't need to adjust any of that. Maybe a little extra eye whitening. When it comes to mouth, nothing necessarily. We can darken them just a little bit to add a little bit more attention to them, but that's about it. When it comes to skin, definitely shine removal. That should help us a lot, removing some of these highlights. Let's have a look at it. Does it actually? Not hugely, so not with that, but we can just add a little bit of softness. Now, I can see that you went a little bit more for natural look, so maybe we just add a little bit, like 7, and be done with that. So after that, just dodge and burn, very light one. Bring the strength down around 5 with the lightening part. And let's go and just, you know, just basically brighten more this side of the face, maybe some of the other highlights. Yeah, some of the hair and here. After that, we're going to turn to dark, also bring down the strength. Just more, that's way too much. Okay, so bring it down to 3. Just darken a little bit here, a little bit on that side, also under the chin to create more depth, maybe under the hair, and just to create a little bit more depth there. Quick look before and after, just to play around with the light, make it a little bit more interesting, add attention to the certain part, and I think that should be it. So, Nick, also very well captured, beautiful images, ISO key is cool, the portraits are beautiful, the planes are very playful. Thank you so much for sending your images over, and I hope to see more of them in the future. Next photographer on our list is Tony with beautiful captures, a little bit of forest, autumn feel, a little bit of detailed capture from the nature. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Tony, let's have a look at it. Starting with this lovely mushroom right here. Looking at the camera details, Canon 50D with 28 to 105 millimeters, 105 millimeters on the lens, ISO 800, f8 and 1/180th of a second. So from the camera settings, little higher ISO, but that's what happens with the low light situation, long lens and yeah, that type of photography. So no problem there. F8, give you good sharpness with a little bit of soft background, especially with 105 millimeters, and 1/180th of a second give you lovely exposure. Now details, talking about sharpness, if I zoom in, it's not super sharp, like a crisp sharp. There's a sharpness there, but you can see that it's just a little bit soft, which is a shame, but it's fine. It's not as visible. When you look at the image like this, it's not a big deal. When you zoom in, you can see that it's not that sharp. There is a little bit of noise, nothing crazy, just a little bit in the darker areas, but I think That's very much manageable, especially for this kind of moody feel autumn capture. I think there's no problem with that. Anyway, talking about composition, well, you know, I'm a massive fan of your square or almost square composition captures. I think they well created together. The contrast of the colors works really well here. Obviously, the main subject is clear. I think the way you position it works very well. The autumn really just stand out of it, and it's just beautiful. Nothing I would add to it. It's very natural. It's very well edited with the highlight and attention on the mushroom. So, Tony, well done. Moving to the second image, let's have a look at it. Different camera, Canon 7D, 18-135mm, 67mm on the lens, and ISO 320, f5, 1/320th of a second. ISO, yeah, 320, again, for this type of photography, lower light, no problem. f5, giving you definitely better sharpness, and at least on the main part of the flower here. You can see the other one is a little bit softer, but it's no problem. 1/320th of a second. Again, lovely light, very moody, very nostalgic, very kind of warm, yeah, like autumny feel capture, which is very well done. Now, talking about composition and the artistic part, you know, the one thing with this is that obviously the main subject, what works very well here is the depth. So that obviously brings more attention to it. However, the one downfall of it is that there is a lot of similar color. So the main subject does sync a little bit with the rest of it. So it's still a beautiful picture. It's well put together, lovely colors, lovely natural edit. But it blends a little bit together, and it's a little bit difficult to see what exactly you're trying to show. No problem there. Maybe also keep an eye on your edges. That's just to make sure that you're not too close. But in all, it's a very lovely capture. And finally, with the third image, lovely kind of path, lovely flow through it, interesting texture capture with the different movements, which is very interesting. We don't necessarily have to go through camera settings. Let's just look at it in overall. There is the flow in it, the depth going through, focusing probably somewhere around here, which is interesting. All in all, it's a lovely picture. Again, I really like these kind of artistic captures when they come in a series of photos, because I think that they can really help to showcase what exactly you're trying to show. Either way, it's very creative, and I really like to see that you're trying different things, Tony. So well done, and thank you very much for sending all three of the images over to us. And fifth and final photographer of this week's show is Zdeněk, all the way from South Africa, but born in Czech Republic. Zdeněk is one of our residential photographers here at the Photography Review Show. And in general, we get a landscape capture and beautiful wildlife capture. So let's have a look at it. Landscape capture is in front of us, captured with Canon M50, 24-105 there. When it comes to camera settings, 30mm, 100 ISO, f10, 1/125th of a second. So nice and low ISO, good zoom there, good lens, not too wide, f10, good sharpness all the way through, 1/125th of a second, giving you a lovely capture altogether. Zdeněk, it's very pretty. Technically, I think very well done. Good light. Let's have a look. Good sharpness. No noise. So all of that together is very good. So moving on the artistic part, and this is where there's just lots happening on the image. And what I mean by that is that it's a little bit difficult to see what you're trying to show. Now, the overall scene, obviously, making you feel of similar landscape as in South Africa or this part of the world, but it's just difficult to pick up what exactly you're trying to show. Is it the trees, or is it the grass, or is it the overall landscape? There's some fallen trees here. So I think it's just a lot. You would have to decide what exactly you're trying to highlight and probably work with that. So let's say that if you're focusing on the trees, I would probably crop it just a little bit tighter and, add more attention to them. So if I say that we just go for like a free crop, I would probably go something like this. Have a kind of equal amount of space on either one of them and just go with that. So that way we are now just focusing on them and we can work with that. Now, to make them stand out, what we can do, we can push a little bit of the saturation on the green, I think. Let's have a look at it. And maybe a little bit of yellow. Now, after selectively, I would actually unsaturate the bottom a little bit. So let's say that we just bring it down. And then we're just gonna brush over it. So that way, if we bring the strength down to 60, I think we just brush over this area and unsaturate it. So that way, again, we're adding more attention towards the trees. Now, we don't want to overdo it, but just somewhere around minus 19. And then, you know, a little bit of closing of the bed bottom just to make it a little bit darker. So maybe like minus 0.5 with the linear gradient, dragging from the bottom up somewhere here, something like this, and see how that works. Let's have a look before and after. I think that works. A little bit of extra attention there as well. So let's do a little bit of dodging. I think here with the brush on 60. Nice big soft brush, and definitely brush over some parts. Again, adding more attention to them. So like this. Now, do we need to add? Yeah, maybe a little bit of opposite. One more burning, bring the exposure down, yeah. And then again, so let's say 50 on the strength, and we're just gonna darken some parts, adding more contrast. Maybe also in the trees. That's also a good idea as well. Something like this in the bushes. Now, this is very fast edit, but I hope it will give you an idea on what I would do. So let's have a look. This is where we started. This is where we ended. Obviously with the cropping, definitely getting more attention towards the trees and making the main subject just a little bit more defined. So Zdeněk, this is what I would do with this one. Coming back, looking at this majestic buffalo. Zdeněk, one thing, it's a little bit undersaturated. I would add a little bit of exposure, but that will very much depends on your screen, on your settings on the screen, so that's not a big deal. What we should look at first is the camera settings. Canon 5D Mark IV, ISO 8000, 330 millimeters on that 100 to 400 lens, f6.3 and 1/1250th of a second. That's a word. Try to repeat it 3 times after each other. Little higher ISO. There's no hiding from that. Obviously, talking about wildlife, high ISO, long lens. You know, long lens, limited a little bit with the f-stop, where you can go. 1/1250th of a second is a sharp shutter speed, so there will be noise. But actually, I think it's very well handled. I think the noise with a kind of soft background, probably done in post-processing, I think work really, really well. There are some signs. You can see a little bit of the brush strokes here, which is a little bit of the shame. That's a little bit distracting. I hope you can see the line here. I'm going to try to zoom on it. It's just a little bit too visible. I wonder if there was a branch or something like that. Maybe just a little bit of extra time, maybe with the clone and stamp would help. So if we would try to do that, move quickly into, first I would just brighten it a little bit. So I wonder if we just do a little extra exposure, or maybe just open the shadows a little bit. Yeah, let's do that. And then jump in and see if we can very quickly, just with cloning, fix some of these parts. Sure we can. We maybe make the brush a little bit smaller, and, you know, just do a little bit of brushing here. Then we kind of remove this line. Here it would be quite simple as well. And by kind of breaking it apart, it should then be a little bit less visible on the parts which are probably difficult to do because of the hair or whatever was there. You know, this is again very wild, but with this texture, it's not really that complicated. It should be kind of easy. We can probably quite easily work with this and do something like this. Let's have a look at it. When we look at the before and after, just a quick fix with little clone, just to remove the line, I think will help a lot. Now, I would add a little bit more attention towards the animal and the central. So like before, a little bit of extra exposure with the brush on 50, let's say, nice big brush, and just brush over the nose, maybe the eyes, maybe the horns, maybe the ears as well, yeah. Just do something like this. Let's have a look before and after. I think that helps. And one more for burning. So again, brush, nice low strength, and brush over these areas. Something like this. So Zdeněk, there you go. Before and after, just very, very quick edit, and I think something that can help the image a little bit to stand up. Zdeněk, thank you for your images as always. Thank you for sending them over, and I hope to see more of your images in the future. And the same goes for all of you folks. If you want to join us for the photography review show, you know what to do. Head to our website, cleverphotography.com/forward membership, sign up and send us your images already for the next week's show. Folks, have a great week. Stay safe, take care, and I will see you all next week on Thursday.